Hi, my name is Meghan Sepich, and I will be conducting a presentation on exploring neural markers of social reward reactivity, irritability, and externalizing risk. I would like to thank Dr. Jennifer McDermott and Christina Hogan for their help and collaboration on my project. Out of all of the papers I've looked through, they have similar definitions for irritability, but they emphasize and focus on different aspects of irritability. After narrowing it down, I've created a cumulative definition of irritability. Irritability is a tendency for an individual to be quickly angered or annoyed and may be displayed as frustration, temper tantrums, or aggression. Irritability is very interesting because it is a transdiagnostic trait, meaning it is a criterion for many different disorders and the most common transdiagnostic symptom in DSM-5. Some examples of the disorders are major depressive disorder, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Externalizing behaviors are behaviors that have outcomes that are harmful to others, including aggression, hyperactivity, antisocial behavior, lying, and defiance. There's a comorbidity between irritability and externalizing behaviors, and irritability is a strong predictor of subsequent externalizing behavior later in life. Therefore, it is important to recognize youth irritability in order to treat and prevent disorders as early as possible. Another interesting aspect of irritability is that there are clear differences in expressing irritability between the genders. Girls tend to have higher rates of internalizing behavior, along with higher levels of chronic and episodic irritability. Girls are also much more emotionally expressive than boys. Boys tend to have a stronger association between irritability and externalizing behaviors and have less inhibitory control. They tend to show less tender emotions, such as gentleness and affection, and are allowed to experience externalizing emotions such as anger and disgust. This lines up with gender roles of men being more assertive and aggressive. There is plenty of research covering how irritable individuals respond to negative stimuli. However, there's a gap in the research regarding how irritable individuals react to positive reward stimuli. My research questions are: how does the severity of irritability in middle childhood predict LPP amplitude to social rewards? And how does gender affect the relation between irritability and LPP amplitude to social rewards? In order to complete my research, I used previously collected data from Dr. Jennifer McDermott and Adeza Iguatu's paper, More Than a Face, Neural Markers of a Motivated Attention Towards Social and Non-Social Reward-Related Images in Children. They utilized parent-reported surveys, a picture viewing task, and ERP and LPP data collected through EEGs. The study initially recruited 116 participants, 38 of which were excluded from the study. The final sample of participants included 78 elementary school-aged children, 40 male and 38 female, ranging in age from 6 to 10 years old, with a mean age of 8.51 years old. Parents accompanied their children and were responsible for filling out the parent-reported questionnaires. 3 parent-reported questionnaires were used in the study. One questionnaire was a demographic questionnaire. The other 2 evaluated their child's behavior and emotion regulation. The Behavior Assessment System of Children, 2nd edition, or the BASC-2, is a diagnostic tool to assess the behavior and self-perceptions of children and young adults. The BASC-2 focuses on both externalizing and internalizing behaviors. This study will focus on externalizing behaviors, which consist of aggression, hyperactivity, and conduct. The Emotion Regulation Checklist, or the ERC, is a parent report questionnaire regarding their child's self-regulation. It is a 24-item checklist that is rated on a 4-point scale from 1 to 4 that are weighed both positively and negatively. The checklist ranges in assessing mood ability, flexibility, anger, empathy, and self-awareness. This study will focus on a composite of questions from the ERC, including questions 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 14, and 23, which are displayed below. The participants viewed and rated each image from the Child Affective Picture Set Rewards, or CAPSAR. This set includes 150 illustrations and photographs, including social reward images, non-social reward images, and neutral images. A fixation cue was displayed for 200 milliseconds, followed by a blank screen for 200 milliseconds. The participants were then presented with a picture from the picture set for 3,000 milliseconds, which was then followed by another blank screen for 200 milliseconds. Children then rated the pictures on 2 scales. One scale consisted of 5 faces ranging from unhappy to happy to indicate how the image made them feel. The second scale displayed 5 thermometers, which ranged from empty to full to indicate how aroused they were by the image. The following illustrations depict the 4 categories that were included in the Child Affective Picture Set rewards. The first image is the interpersonal category, which depicts positive social interactions. The second image is the intrapersonal category, which depicts happy people with no social interactions. The third image is the object category, which shows object-based rewards relative to the children. The fourth image is the neutral category, which consists of images such as trees or shoes that can act as a control. ERPs are event-related potentials. ERPs are derived from EEGs, which detect electrical activity in the brain through externally placed electrodes. ERPs are used to assess neural processes related to cognitive and emotional processing across development. The late positive potential is a positive waveform that emerges 300 to 2,000 milliseconds after the onset of a stimulus. Larger LPP amplitudes indicate higher levels of sustained attention and increased emotion reactivity. There are 3 time windows for posterior, central, and anterior brain locations, and we focus on the frontal region of the brain, the FC. My hypothesis for question 1A is that irritability will predict LPP amplitudes to interpersonal images, and irritability will not predict LPP amplitudes to intrapersonal images and object-based images. For question 1A, we conducted a linear regression between irritability based on the answers for the ERC questionnaire and LPP amplitude, using age as a predictor. And my data is displayed below. For my hypothesis 1B, I stated, gender will moderate the relation between irritability and LPP amplitude to interpersonal, intrapersonal, and object-based reward images. For question 1B, we conducted a moderated regression to determine if gender moderates the relationship between irritability and LPP amplitude, and my data is displayed below. For question 1A, we found that irritability predicts LPP amplitude only to intrapersonal images. This pattern suggests a unique focus on self-oriented rewards, and further work is needed to determine if LPP reflects a child imagining themselves getting the reward or another kind of process. For question 1B, we found that there is a trending significance for the moderation of irritability and LPP amplitude by gender, but further work is needed to determine if this pattern will be enhanced with a larger sample size. For some future directions of this project, I would increase the size and diversity of the sample, recruit for a broader span of irritability symptoms to explore the influence of differing levels of irritability on neural reactivity to rewarding stimuli as measured by the LPP. And I would track irritability longitudinally throughout childhood to determine how it changes throughout the development and whether its association with risk for psychopathology varies by age. And finally, thank you to all the children and families who participated in the study, as well as all the graduate and undergraduate research assistants who worked on this project.